This is a video presentation for the investigatory project entitled Red Cabbage Juice as an Alternative pH Indicator. Included in this video are the following: the reason for choosing this study, the statement of the problem, the significance of the study, the procedure, the results, and last, the recommendations. The researcher had picked this topic because we are curious to find out if we can relate biology to chemistry using plants like red cabbage as an experiment for alternative pH indicator. Next, the researcher wants to add some new ideas and concepts about red cabbage. That red cabbage is not only used for cooking, we can also experiment and discover a new use for red cabbage. Last, the researcher wants to create an easy way on determining the acidity of different various solutions. The researcher wants to prove by using red cabbage juice, we can use it as an alternative pH or an acid indicator. Here are the following questions that the researcher wants to prove in this study. The researcher wants to know if we can relate biology to chemistry. Next, the researcher wants to know if we can find another use for red cabbage. And last, the researcher wants to know if we can use red cabbage juice as an alternative pH indicator. This research is to create or to find another easy way to have a pH indicator, or to those who want to test the acidity of different solutions, such as baking soda, water, and vinegar. This study wants to achieve if using a red cabbage can be an alternative use for a pH indicator or for acidity test. This study is important because of its implications and significant roles in the possible development of the society and the benefits it can offer to the following groups. It can benefit readers or future researchers to collect ideas and gain knowledge about the investigatory project. This will be beneficial to students since this will give them some new knowledge, and this will help them to know how a pH indicator works. They can add some new ideas or some other concept and continue to develop the study. And lastly, this will be beneficial to the future chemists to easily determine the acidity of the solutions, and they can gather some data about the investigatory project and understanding the reactions of the acidity to the red cabbage juice. In the experimentation, the researcher will present the materials and equipment that will be used to conduct this research. This will also include the general procedure of how the researcher will conduct this experiment. Here are the materials that are needed in this experiment. First is the red cabbage. Second, the knife or the blender. Third is the glass container. And the fourth is the different household solutions such as the vinegar, water, and baking soda. The process or the step-by-step procedure in this experiment: first, chop up the red cabbage into small pieces and then use a blender and add it with the water. The second step, pour the cabbage water through a strainer into a jar or large measuring cup. The dark purple liquid in the jar is your indicator. The third step in this procedure, pour about 50 to 100 ml of your red cabbage indicator into each glass container. And last, add various household solutions to your indicator until color change is obtained. Use separate containers for each household solutions, such as baking soda, water, and vinegar. Determine if it is acidic, neutral, or basic solution through its color. Now, here are all the results. The results are successfully done during the experiment. The different household solution turn into different colors according to their acidity because of the pigment molecule of the red cabbage known as the flavin. It helps the researcher to determine the acidity of each solutions. Can we relate biology to chemistry? Yes, biology can be related to chemistry. By using plants like red cabbage, in this research we can use it as an experiment for pH indicator to determine the acidity of each solutions. Second, can we find another use for red cabbage? We can now conclude that it is not only used for cooking, but it is also used for some experiment. In this study, the researcher proves that red cabbage is not only an ingredient that we use for cooking, but it is also another ingredient for creating an alternative acid indicator. And finally, can we use red cabbage as an alternative pH indicator? This study proves that using red cabbage juice, we can create an alternative pH indicator. The flavin of the red cabbage helps out to change the color of the juice for us to determine the pH level of the solution, if it is acidic, neutral, or base. The researcher recommend to start the investigatory project early to avoid cramming. Second, keep the backup file of the project and keep your files organized. Use a lot of different solutions for this experiment. And lastly, the researcher recommends to the next researcher to continue and develop this study. I'm Brianna Gray J. Castillo. These are the sources that the researcher used for this study. The researcher would like to express their sincere appreciation to Welch, Mulligan, Bahab, Cow, and the Kodua, and the editors of Encyclopedia Britannica, to Hazra, and lastly, to science bodies.